Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen,
And I'm John Johnson.
and you're listening to Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, the podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, comics we want to read, and everything in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Planes, Trains, and Comic Books. Today we're doing another spooky book for this month. This one is kind of it's an indie, but it's also been in the mainstream a little bit. There's a movie based on it. Starring Josh Hartnett, that heartthrob that isn't around anymore. But I think it was in the 2000s, 2007 or 8 or something that was made.
Surely you've seen shirts of this at Hot Topic, I'm sure.
Yeah, probably for sure. But yeah, this is the horror property from IDW called 30 Days of Night. This is the original 30 Days of Night. Now there's a bunch of spin-offs that have happened since, but this is like the original idea from Steve Niles, and then the original art by Ben Templesmith. So I will say we looked up Ben Templesmith before this because John and me were talking about his art style and how like it's kind of weird but also cool but also hard to figure out sometimes. And he was fucking 16 when he did this book.
Yeah.
So I'll give him a pass on some of the hard to figure out panels or whatever. But he is 2 years older than me, and now that makes me feel very unaccomplished in my life. So yeah.
No, sometimes the art is like it's just weird in a comic book format because it's like it's one of his firsts.
Yeah.
And so it's not, I guess, like for a comic book format it's not quite there, and so it's kind of still like impressionist, or it's definitely different.
Yeah.
And it's like sometimes it's like,
yeah,
oh,
I would
wow,
call it like impressionist, abstract, like it's not quite, I mean, you can tell what's supposed to be going on.
Yeah.
But sometimes you're like, wait, what? And then you have to like go back and, oh, I get it. Like he's not drawn like super detailed like Brian Boland or like a normal comic art. It's not like that. So yeah, he's got a really interesting style. He's the only person I've ever seen with this style.
I mean, it fits the horror genre for sure. Like, it makes me, like, it seems in the vein of like a Tim Burton gothic dark esque style.
Yeah.
Not, Tim Burton's still cartoony,
right?
But it just saying it's like his style fits his storytelling, and this definitely fits the story.
His art would fit like perfectly, and he did this already with Warren Ellis. There's a book called Fell, but it's kind of like a procedural police crime where you're in a morgue a lot and dealing with a lot of dead bodies. It's got a very like sterile feel sometimes. Like I was telling John, it seems like he like photographs all the art like while it's on top of like an X-ray, viewer or whatever. Like like those lights that are super bright and like almost fluorescent or like neon behind everything. Like he takes his pages that are like charcoal and then he puts some color on it, and it actually like makes all the colors super like neon looking. It's very weird. I don't know how he does it. Obviously it's digital art probably. So actually back then I don't know, because this is from 2001. So
maybe not.
So I don't know what he did back then, but now definitely I'm sure he uses digital stuff. But it's very interesting, very cool, and I gotta respect it, especially for learning that he was fucking 16 when he did the art for this. So yeah, but like we said, this is 30 Days of Night. The original is written by Steve Niles, who is pretty much just a comic book like jobber. Like he's not like, I've never read anything by him that's just like amazing, but he just writes solid, good horror, and he pretty much only works for like IDW, like exclusively. So he only writes horror titles for IDW. Works with a lot of different artists and whatnot. I trying to think of other companies I've seen him work with, and I can't off the top of my head, think of anything. So that's what he's mainly known for. And like we said, I couldn't tell if this was from 2001 or 2002 based on like the copyrights I could find. But like the book takes place in 2001, so I'm going to say it actually was written in 2001, probably came out in 2002. And it's 3 issues long, which is kind of perfect for someone. This is like a perfect book for if you know someone who likes horror and isn't into comics yet, and you're like, hey, did you ever read this? Especially if they haven't seen the movie, like if they haven't seen the movie, or even if they have, the movie does not have the artistic feel of this book. Like, especially with, I mean, it's just like you can't do that with film the way Ben Templesmith draws. So, it's more straightforward in the film. But in this, you're like, whoa, like this is crazy art. So, yeah, and what is the premise for this book? It's a kind of a great premise, but I'm assuming that's like how this book was born. Can you explain the premise, John?
Yeah, so in Alaska, especially as you get up further and further north, at the furthest point of Alaska, there's a town called Barrow, Alaska.
Yep.
And there is a time frame there where there is an extended period of sun where the sun does not set because of where it's sitting on the Earth's axis. So there's a period of time where the sun does not set and it's always sunny outside, whether it's day
it never goes down. Yeah.
And then there's a period of complete darkness where the sun sets and it does not come back up for an entire month.
Yeah, 30 days.
30 days.
Of night, you might say.
30 days, you could say. And, so the premise is like, okay, so then what if vampires...
This book is exactly like just that premise.
Yeah.
Like we're going to expand this just enough to make that cool.
Yeah.
But because it could it could drag this out for a long while if you wanted it. But it doesn't it doesn't set it around like, we're going to drag out this story arc inside of it or anything. It's just, no, like 3 issues, bam, bam, bam. That's the end of it.
Yeah.
So, were you wanting to say something about vampires?
Yeah. What if vampires discovered there was a place
Read a
like
book?
that, and we're like, hey, which seems kind of like, wait a minute, if just because for the storytelling, I'm going to spoil it a little bit, just that. So vampires have been around for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, they're like, I'm looking at my hand, like my watch, like, wait a minute, how long have we been here? And there's this town.
Yeah.
Where literally we don't have to go into hiding for an entire month. Let's go up there and eat a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So how long did it?
I mean, hey, you know what? There wasn't always a lot of people there though.
That's true.
Not that Barrow probably has a lot of people, but a good. They said in the comic good enough to eat for one. If you eat for 30 days, then you never have to eat again for the whole year, instead of having to kill a person every week or something.
Yeah.
That makes sense, but.
This also seems like it would be a one and done town because I don't know anybody who would want to go to a town where every year, you're gonna people just miraculously all die.
Yeah, so, every year.
Every year,
the annual slaughter happened, and we need to refill this town. But maybe there's oil up there, so that's why.
That's true. You get the oil money in Alaska. So
it's like the deadliest catch. It's like this is the most dangerous job in the world. Yeah. 30 days out of the year, vampires come and massacre the town, so you got to make sure that everything's ready to go before the vampires come.
Well, actually, I just thought of, and I don't know the rest of the story, and I'll throw it out there kind of, you were saying, I have never read this, and I had never seen the movie. I knew the premise of it still,
right.
But I never looked at either, really.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird, because I'm also, I like vampire stories in general. But, a continuation of the story would be so you actually just have, a vampire mayor of the town or whatever, and he's recruiting new people to come to the town. It's we don't know what happened. They just something happened and all these people are disappearing. But hey, we got some great houses up here. Got a really good deal. Come on down.
$1 down. Just $1 down on a house.
That's how you keep the town going. You just have a couple vampires as
you leak some
the mayor and just a couple important roles in the town. Keep it going.
You just leak some info about a new gold rush or something up there. Someone found gold in them hills, and then get a gold mining camp going up there. Yeah. So anyway,
howdy, folks! You here for the feast? I mean the the darkness, the jobs,
the jobs, the feast. I mean jobs. Anyway, yeah. So
30 days of night.
30 days a night. Okay, so there's not a very big cast in this. There's literally the only ones you need to know. There's this town Barrow apparently has 2 sheriffs, a husband and wife team. The dude's name is Eben, and I was trying to find her name, and I believe it's Stella. Okay.
Stella.
They say it once in the whole fucking comic, to which I was like, that's kind of disrespectful to her as sheriff. They're always like, Sheriff Eben, we need this, or whatever. They're never sheriffs or Sheriff Stella and Eben, or, they never include her in any of that, but she's got a fucking badge and everything, so it's not she's just there because of nepotism or something. I'm assuming, but maybe not. Maybe he was like, I just want my wife to work with me all day. I'm gonna make her a sheriff too.
Small town.
Yeah, small town.
I
Who knows?
deputize you,
Yeah.
honey.
Yes. And then so his name is Eben, her name's Stella, and then there's
Eben.
Eben, yeah.
No, you said it right. I was just clarifying again. Eben, not Evan.
Right. I think he's supposed to be native or
Native?
like not Eskimo, Inuit maybe. I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess they have Eskimos in Alaska, so
Yeah.
it could be. But yeah, he's supposed to be some kind of Native American, I believe, because his last name sounded Native as well. So I don't know. But then Marlowe is like the head of the vampires, and then there's a couple vampire hunters. I didn't know who they were exactly. They only come up
Mama and son.
Yeah, there's mama and son and some dude named George. So like then they're like some, I don't know if they're vampire hunters or what they are, but
Yeah, they're weird. Yeah, because like so, almost the entire story takes place in Barrow, Alaska, except for there's those vampire. They seem like hunters.
Yeah.
It's like in Louisiana and New Orleans, and like her hut or the place where they go and like they're talking. It looks like there's like the way it's kind of again the way that it's drawn. It's hard to tell a little bit, but it looks like there's like voodoo masks and stuff like that on the walls. Which I mean that's also the setting for New Orleans. So I get that. But like, so I couldn't tell. Like, are they like?
Is she just really into New Orleans culture, or is she actually a Haitian voodoo priestess or something?
Something, yeah.
Yeah, but then why would she care about vampires? I don't know. But that was a little murky on some of that.
I'm sure that gets fleshed out in the continuing stories more.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is like we said is the first volume, and there are many, many, many volumes after this. So, let's just get straight into it. In issue 1, it starts off kind of like right away. It's like the day before the darkness is supposed to happen. There's no setup or anything, and the sheriffs are like searching for or like trying to figure out all these crimes have been happening in the last couple days. Like all the cell phones in the town went missing. Like all these like burglaries and or destruction of property kind of stuff has been happening. And they're like, "Wow, this is so weird." And then they find like all the cell phones burned, like outside of town. Like, what the fuck? Like, who would do this? And they're thinking, kids? Like, is this kind of weird prank or something? I don't know. And so they do this thing, I guess, every year when this 30 days of night happens, where they're like, okay, yeah, we're working on this. Let's think about it for a bit. But like, we got to watch the sun go down. Like, as a married couple, it's like a nice, sweet thing we do.
Yeah,
it's like the sun goes down for the last time in 30 days, and then they watch the sunrise come up, at the end of that. So
I can imagine it's pretty like, especially even in the comic, like it's very vibrant.
Oh yeah.
So I'm sure up there it is for something like that.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and it's also just it's a sweet little like okay, they love each other, whatever. They got a good relationship, and then that's where we cut to right away, like Louisiana and Nolans, yeah, as John says, and we meet this woman named Mama, who this person George is coming to tell her. Apparently, he's like a speed freak or something. He's like a drug addict, but they have him out there searching the web and hacking and stuff. This was in 2000, so this was kind of like a trendy thing to do. Apparently, you could hack emails and shit or whatever, and so he hacks some emails between this dude named Marlowe and this dude named V, and they're basically Marlowe's like, dude, I found this fucking town, got this plan,
can gather for this event.
Yeah, I got 19 vampires already. You in? Like, it'd be a pretty cool thing if you came. So obviously, we see the person named V is an important person to Marlowe. And it's funny because like he sets it all up in there, and then V's like, it shows like a couple responses back and forth, and V's like, oh, there'll be 20 there then, like I'll be there, no problem. And then but it seemed like the mama and her kids and everybody didn't know who the fuck these people were. And I'm like, if you're vampire hunters, you would think you would know like the head people of these organizations, but maybe vampires have been so hidden in the last years that they don't know anybody, and they're just trying to find something.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they think that they are, so they're keeping tabs on this, and maybe this is one of the first ones they're encountering.
Yeah, I just said like, are they really bad vampire hunters, like because like they don't know anything about anything, so it's pretty interesting. Um, and then we don't see them for a while. So whenever I read this before, I just kind of I read that and I'm like, that was weird. I guess it was just to show the emails. And then like, there must have been a better way to figure that out, but whatever. And I just kind of glance over it and I wouldn't pay attention. And I never ever figured out that the guy who was in the helicopter at the end when we get there was the same guy from this scene.
The same, yeah.
Because I forgot, because there's like an issue and a half in between or whatever. So yeah, anyway, then like they talk about, oh yeah, this is like a big thing. We got to figure something out, what's going on with this. So then we cut back to
Barrow.
Back to Barrow. Evan and Stella, they're watching the sun go down. It looks so nice and pretty. And they're like, it's great. Then they're interrupted by a call for help at a bar. And so Evan goes to the bar, and there's this creepy guy. And as vampire people, we've read the books and whatnot. We're up on the lore. We've seen a lot of Buffy,
Yeah.
We know there's like, what are they called? Familiars and stuff. So you got Renfield and all those guys in the normal books. And in this, there's this weird dude who's like sitting at a bar. And one of the things that I did think was annoying about this, and I don't know if this was Temple Smith or who the letterer was on this, but the vampires talk in a very fucked up uppercase, lowercase mix up.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was hard to figure out what was being said.
The word bubble gets craggly, and then the wording, like, not only is it like weird uppercase lowercase mix, but also it's like splatter writing, uppercase lowercase. So sometimes the letter isn't even like fully connected.
Yeah, and so sometimes it was hard to figure out what they were saying. Yeah. There was one specific time I sat there going, "What word is that?" And I had to like sit there and be like, like okay, I'm gonna sound this out, because it was so. It was like I was in elementary school or something. Chulupula, like I don't know what does that say. Yeah, so so they arrest this guy for like he won't leave the premises.
He's like, I want whiskey and raw meat.
Yeah,
raw hamburger
I want raw
meat.
hamburger. It's so good with the blood or whatever. And they're like, what the fuck's wrong with this guy?
Yeah, I did like, he's like, there's only two ways we serve hamburgers: if we're frozen and
burnt to a crisp. Yeah,
so.
Yeah, and so he's arrested. He gets thrown in jail, and then we cut to the comm tower for the town. Now I don't know if this is a real thing. This seemed a little too convenient, possibly just for this story. But there's apparently a tower or like a station that has all communications tied to it. So the internet, the radio, any communications that's not like
not shortwave.
CB or whatever, is on this. So
I don't know. I feel like that might be true up there. Why would you have that all spread out? Like, just it's
so this can't happen.
Well, okay, yes. So we now maybe going forward, they're like, oh, that's a good idea. Hopefully that we don't have vampires. We should.
I don't mean vampires. I just mean you could take out a whole town with this, if a bad thing happens in this one place, a fire, dude smoking and falls asleep or something.
That's true.
Now the whole town's out. So I think there's a couple more AT&T may have ran something else up there since then, but they basically we cut to this communications tower, which is conveniently the only communications place, and a man named Gus is like, it kind of goes into his history. Where he's like, man, he had like a shitty life and he married the wrong woman, and like he hated it, so he left. He came up here and he loves it now, and he's like, this is a great place to live. And then all of a sudden.
Oh well.
Yeah. Oh well, Gus. Sorry. We get to see the first group of vampires. They confront Gus.
Yeah. So there's like 5 of them up there, and they're like, "Hey, what's up, man?" And he's like, what are you guys doing here? This is like a restricted area." And they're like, "Oh yeah, we're sorry. It's cool. We just got 2 questions for you, and then we'll leave or whatever." Is this the communication center for this place? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, and this is where everything comes through, right? Like no other communications come through here.
He's like, yeah, why would you ask that?
Really weird, specific questions. And he's like, yeah, everything pretty much. And what do you mean pretty much? And he's like, well, it's that shortwave like CB. He's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, guess what?
Yeah, and then they just fucking murder him.
Yeah.
They like basically they only kill with like their hands, so like stab him through the chest with their hands and like tear him apart.
Yeah.
It's pretty creepy. I said like, damn, this art's good in that specific scene, because like the way that he draws them like tearing him apart is pretty crazy.
Yeah, all the scenes where vampires attack or like there's some kind of fighting with blood, those are all really cool.
I think mainly it's because there's no color in this for the most part. Like it's all either blue or gray or black
and white.
and white. So yeah, it's like a very muted color palette. So when something bloody happens, it's very like all over the page, very vibrant, and, pretty in a certain way. But that's pretty much how the first issue ends. Now, I don't know if you know that's how the first issue ends because there was no chapter breaks in this.
Yeah.
But I could tell. I had to count the pages. I'm like, okay, these are only 18-page comics. So like you could tell, like, okay, here's the chapter break because this guy dies, and then he goes like, it's gonna be a good, 30 days or whatever, and then like that's like, okay, that was like the last line of that issue. Then we get to this next place or whatever, so that makes sense that that's the first page of that second issue or whatever. So if you read it in trade, like it's not very, you don't know it's 3 issues unless you're paying attention.
No, yeah, it just seems like one big story. I don't think I paid that close attention to when the issue ended.
I only did because I was like, it's 3 issues. I'm like, but they don't say where the issues are, and I went back and I was like, it's either 18 or 22 pages. So I'd see where it made sense for it to break. I'm like, okay, that's got to be where it is, and that's got to be where it is. You can tell because there's always like a big.
Nerd.
I know. There's always like a big either splash page or like something the main bad guy says on the last page because it's like whoa, like what's gonna happen? Yeah. So anyway, that's me being a nerd. Comics. Sorry.
No, you're fine.
Sorry, John. I'm nerding out about a comic. Yeah, but anyway, back to the comic. Issue 2 starts in the police station where, it's like one of those old town police stations where the jail is also in, where they type all their paperwork up and they hang out and eat donuts or whatever cops do. And and so like the guy who they arrested, who's like the familiar, he's like, they're gonna come get you and they're gonna eat your wife, and I wouldn't mind eating your wife too, and all this stuff. He's like trying to get Eben to get pissed off, which he does. And then the guy's talking to him, and there was some really good art in this scene where like he started getting more detail around the dude's mouth and stuff because the guy's like biting his lips really hard, and like I don't know, it just seemed like really creepy and weird. But the guy grabs the bars and he's able to bend out of the bars. So I was like, apparently he's not a vampire, but their familiars are a bit more vampire-ish or strong.
Strong, yeah.
At least. So, or maybe they have like a super amount of will or something. I don't know. But he like basically breaks out of the jail, and Eben's like, stop, and he doesn't stop. And so Eben shoots him in the head, and he like falls down. And then I like this part because his wife's like Eben's like, is he dead? And his wife's like, bam, and like shoots him again in the head. And she's like, yeah, he is now. like they're just like, what the fuck? He bent through the bars. Like I've never seen anybody do that. And they were so freaked out that they didn't have a problem shooting him in the head because that obviously is something bad. And then like kind of at the same time they're realizing like right before the guy did that, like, hey, all of our computers are down.
Our phone's
our
not
phones.
working.
Yeah. So like right after this guy happens, because he's like they've come, it's time or whatever. They're like, we need to go check on the comms tower. Like something's up or whatever. Like this dude's being weird.
What is Gus doing out there?
Yeah, is he sleeping on the job again? Goddamn Gus. He's probably drinking or something. But they get there and the whole station is burned down. And Gus's head is on a pike, like on a stick, sitting there going like, hey. But he's not a vampire or anything. He's just
they just killed him and his head's on a pike.
Yeah, and so they're like, oh my god, like what the fuck? So they're driving to town real quick. They're like, we got to figure out, we got to get to town before whoever did this, gets there or whatever. And they see like while they're driving in the distance, off to their left or whatever, they see like a group of people in the snow with lights and shit. And they're like, I don't know, a mile off or something. They were pretty far away because they had to have binoculars to see them. Yeah. And this is like in the snow and stuff. Actually, if it's in the snow, maybe it wasn't as far as I thought. Maybe it was like a football field. But they have binoculars. But basically, they pull over, and they're like, what's that? And they like look, and they see like.
It has to be because it shows. I think it even said on the page like they were like zooming in on him. So
right, but like through the storm, I would imagine it has to be closer for the snow and everything. So, but yeah, he's definitely zooming with his binoculars, and he can see them like good, and you can see their teeth and everything. He's like, what the fuck?
What is going on?
And this is like the first time you see Marlowe. And so we heard about him from the comics, but Marlowe's like, hey, like this is it, guys. Like he does like his big rousing, like we're gonna fuck shit up speech, and and then he like because basically they can see him looking at them, and he's like they drive away. He's like we gotta get the fuck out of here, go to town and warn people before they get there, and he's like let's fucking go to town. So Marlo, is trying to beat them to town, and they start the attack right away. As Eben and Stella get to town, and this issue was super short because it's literally just setting that up. Because they show the massacre, and the massacre is like, the first shot this show is like some guy like, what's that noise outside my window? And then like a hand bursts through the window and rips his head off.
Yeah.
And then like the little things like that, but then they showing the whole town getting massacred, and then like basically Eben and Stella are like, they get there and they're like, what the fuck? And they just hide in a basement. But that's it. Like that's him. Like Marlo just in town with all the vampires, like massacring everybody. And he's going like, this is a perfect plan.
Yeah. He keeps having this like internal monologue. Like, this is perfect. This is just as I imagined. This is like, like for lack of a like better, like, oh, like this is my heaven on earth kind of thing. And
yeah, he's very like into his own plan. He like thinks he's a genius, which is funny because a little bit later on we see it's not like no one's thought of this before, and like they just don't want like to have this attention brought on him or whatever. But like for this part, you think, oh yeah, Marlo's doing like his thing, like he's the head of this little clique or whatever, and they're doing what they're supposed to do as vampires, which is kill everybody. So they're doing that, and then that's pretty much the end of issue 3. Him being like, this perfect plan is perfect, and it's my perfect plan. And did I say it was perfect? So he says the word perfect a lot. But yeah, so issue 3 starts with Eben and his wife, and they're in that. It's like a basement, I guess they're hiding in.
Yeah,
and it's just them at first, and they're like, we don't know what's gonna happen. Like they're just seeing everybody getting killed, and they're like, I mean, we can't escape, and we can't wait it out. It's it's like 30 days basically,
and we'll
starve, and like this can't happen. Then they cut. So like they end with going like, I'm so hungry, and they're like, that's it. And so like you think, wow, that's fucked up. Like they're just left there. Then we cut back to Louisiana. It's been like an issue and a half since we were there.
Yeah.
And we see Mama is getting her son ready to go to Alaska, and she's really, really, really trying to tell him about this camera and how this camera can upload images automatically to, I don't know how. I guess there's a satellite phone in this helicopter he's going to take, or that he has with him, that can like send it automatically, so it'll be in data packets or whatever automatically when he starts recording. Because this is in 2001, so this thing, there ain't no fiber or 5G or anything. So I don't quite know how this works, but it's got to be satellite phone, I would think. Or
something along those lines.
So basically, she's telling him about this camera. She's like, make sure you just automatically start filming with the camera. Like, once you see anything, start filming, because it's going to start transmitting right away. It'll send it to us, and then we'll have proof, finally. So, like, that's why I was like, are these vampire hunters or just, like, supernatural hunters? Or, like, what the fuck are they? They don't say anything about them. So, I wondered, like, maybe later on they go into them more or something, like in the later
I assume
comics.
so. I did like it, but Mama was also like, don't do any heroics either. Like, if you see people, like, trying to survive still, screw them. You're just there to get evidence.
Yeah, and she's also like, here's a gun. And he's like, I can't find them with a gun. She's like, it's not for them. It's for you. If you get bit or whatever, just shoot yourself in the head before you turn. And she's like, Jesus. But she really was like, yeah, be safe, but also just make sure you got that camera rolling. So it kind of feels like she already knew he was going to die.
Like, he ain't going to come back.
Yeah, but he's like, no, Mama, I'm a good boy. And like, just he hopes he's gonna live, but we'll find out. And so then we cut back to, then we cut to him like renting a helicopter in Alaska, and this is here mainly to show time passing. It would be better if they showed 10 days later he's in Alaska and he's renting a helicopter, and then 10 days more later, because I didn't get how much time was supposed to have passed until the last page. When they go, oh, it's been 29 days. The sun's going to rise in a little bit. Like, we should wait for that. So, So basically, it has taken 29 days almost from the first day of this happening and the massacre. I'm assuming he's on the first day, right? That's like the sun went down. Maybe one day had passed. I mean, I'm gonna say at most it'd been one day.
Yeah.
Of the massacre, and then this happens in Louisiana, and then the guy goes to Alaska, and the guy rents a helicopter, and then the guy flies to Barrow, and all that takes 28 more days.
Probably.
So,
and I think I kind of felt like that because then like the rest of the story I feel like maybe was filling in gaps of like some of the things are happening because like when we come back now we like the sheriff goes on a run for supplies and we find out like there's a couple more people in the
they've got some helpers now. So we left them in despair, and now they're like they figured it out a bit. Like Eben is out, and he's getting
like some food and supplies.
Yeah, food and bandages and stuff. And then he runs into a vampire, and this vampire I thought looked a lot like a Clive Barker Hellraiser demon or something. Like I don't know, he felt like that. Or who are you gonna?
No, at first I thought it was Marlowe because there's a couple of bald vampires in this too.
This guy's like big and
but
fat.
He's bigger,
though.
yeah.
He reminded me of there's like a Cenobite from Hellraiser who's got like sunglasses all the time.
Yes.
And he's big and fat, and I'm like, oh, it looks like that guy. But it's not that guy. But it might as well be because he shoots him in the face with a shotgun to get away from him, and he doesn't do anything. And then he shoots him again, and he's able to get away because he shot him twice in the head. But it still didn't kill him. He's like, it didn't kill him. Then he like runs into like a little girl who's like drinking someone's blood. She's like, hey there, mister, I'm almost done with him if you want to play next. And he's like, Jesus Christ. And then he just like runs away. And then Marlowe like heard all this noise and he's like, what the fuck? Oh, finally we found them, the survivors. So he's all about to get all excited and like say, let's go find them.
Yeah. And one of the things that was cool that I did like we found out is that like apparently because of the harsh weather up there, like it affects the vampire's sense of like smelling people out. So that's kind of cool. That makes it like, oh, that's how they were able to hide for an extended period of time and try to sneak around. I was like, okay, that's cool. That makes it a little more like it gives it a little.
I don't know if that's true, but yes.
Yeah, a little more reason for them to be able to hide, at least in this aspect.
Okay.
And then also Eben was like he was saying they had tried to kill several of them, and they use like bullets and wooden like stakes, quote unquote.
Yeah, like
and even
crosses.
Like, wife was like tried to use a cross and they just like laughed at him.
Yeah. So basically, they don't know how to kill him, and they're like there's no way for us to fight them or escape if we can't figure out a way to kill them.
Yeah.
So as he's like realizing this, he's telling the other survivors that Marlowe is like about to like get a convoy ready to like find them, and then all of a sudden he's like, hold on a second, someone's here, and then like this older vampire comes out of nowhere, and I like this. I don't know if you caught this so in Ben Templesmith's art, he wouldn't like have people say people's names for a while, but like in the clouds or in the dust in the background, he would write Marlowe or whatever, the background mess. And I didn't even notice it until I read it this time. I'm like, oh, that it says Vincent above his head, and then he's got two girls with him, and the one above her says the one on his right says bitch one, and the one on his left says bitch two over her head. Which I thought was funny. I don't know. I was just like, oh, but it just kind of blends into the noise of the background because it just seems like it's part of the art.
Yeah.
So I thought that was cool. Like when I realized, oh, and it actually said it above Marlowe's head and stuff too. But this says Vincent above this dude's head. So you're like, okay, this is V.
This is V.
This is V from the emails from before. Marlowe was trying to get him to come.
And this was cool because he definitely like seemed like the most vampire-esque. And like obviously we were like, oh, okay, this guy's older and different because he's got like he's bald as well, but he's got like bigger, pointier ears. He's kind of got like seemingly more elongated fingers.
Yeah.
They're all kind of dressed the same. They're all just kind of wearing black in general. He did have like looked more like he was wearing a coat and like a tie.
It kind of looked like he could turn into a bat or something. You know, like he had like big shoulders and then the coat would come down. You know, like if he had wings or something.
Very Nosferatu-esque.
Yes.
Yeah.
So and like Marlowe's like, holy shit, yeah, like finally you came. Like I didn't know, I wasn't sure if you would or not, but and then Vincent's
like, welcome to paradise.
Yeah, he's all excited. He starts saying like, yeah, check it out. Like, we killed all these guys, and it's awesome. And like, we only have to feed once a year if we come up here every year.
And it was cool because like when they showed around the town, like again, the massacres already pretty much happened, so they have like heads of people stacked over here, and there's blood everywhere, like in the snow. There's body parts, and guts elsewhere here and there. So like you could like the way he painted up, being like, there's definitely no way you can mistake some shit went down.
Yeah,
here.
yeah. And so, he thinks he did good, and then all of a sudden, Vincent's like, "You fucking idiot! What have you done?" And he's like, "What? What are you talking about?" He's like, "You know how long we've been trying to get these humans to think we're like some fairy tale fucking folklore or whatever, not to be believed, and now you like made a massacre that no one can ignore, and that everybody's gonna be like, it's vampires, and then like they're gonna start believing it again. So like, and then they're gonna hunt us, and like, you know how long we spent." He's talking about like his wife and children and brothers and sisters were murdered in front of him and all this stuff. So like, he's pissed. So he's like, starts fighting with Marlowe, grabs him, and he just like rips Marlowe's head off and then stomps on it, and then that kills Marlowe. And now Eben, who's watching this scene because like in the middle of town, is like, holy shit, like that's how you kill them. You rip off their head and I guess smash their head, like that kills them.
Yeah.
And so he's like, okay, I know, at least we know that now, And then all of a sudden, one of the it kind of cuts to the basement while Eben's watching this, and he's getting hope. And one of the other survivors in the basement is like, "Oh, I'm not feeling too good. That scratch."
Yeah, he got scratched apparently. So he was down there, and he said it once in the other scene, but you were kind of like, oh, whatever. He was like, oh, but my girlfriend's still out there. I need to find her, or my wife, something like that. He's like, still out there. We need to find her. And they're like, if she's alive, maybe we'll see. So of course, there's always one asshole in the group that's gonna put everybody's life in jeopardy for their own cause.
Sure.
And I guess he went out to like look, and then he got confronted, but was able to like, get his way back without them knowing. That's one thing. Like if you leave, like you always risk of like having them like follow you and figure out where you are.
Yeah. Apparently he did a good job coming back, except that he got scratched.
Yeah.
So he got scratched. He starts to turn from the scratch, and then he like fully turns like at this moment. And so Eben's like, oh well, shit. But now Eben at least knows how to kill him. So he like stabs him in the head with like a spear. I don't know if it's like a rake handle or something.
Yeah, I couldn't quite tell.
Some kind of stick that might have been sharpened. I'm not sure. And he stabs him through the head, and like, I don't know, like kind of gores one side of his head and like throat, but he doesn't fully rip his head off. And like while the guy's like bleeding out from that stab, he takes a syringe and he like sucks up some of the live blood. Then he takes his stick and fully like decapitates him, and then they smash his head. So he's like, cool, we killed that guy. We knew how to get him, and I got this blood for later. And everybody's like, why? Why do we need that blood for later?
Yeah. He's like, don't worry about it.
Yeah. And so that's when, and that was the other thing. I was like, how insulated is this basement?
They had nobody. They didn't.
No one heard a goddamn thing of that. But like they're out. There's a window that they can see everything going on, and that they're going in and out through. So you would think, maybe some of the vampires with their super hearing or smelling or whatever would hear a fellow vampire.
It's too windy outside.
Okay, it's too windy. Okay. Good point, John. But yeah, so like while this is going on, I guess, and maybe this explains it, is V looks up after he killed Marlowe, and the helicopter shows up. And he's like, I see you, or whatever, and the guy's filming. We cut to the helicopter, and he's filming right away. And he's like, you get this, mama? I'm sending it. I'm sending the videos. And like... And so I don't know if he's sending images or if it's just like actual video. It's 2001, so it has to be.
It just shows like a little screen, and it's like uploading, and then it will be like translating.
It says sending. It doesn't even say uploading.
Sending,
that's how old this is. No one knew what uploading was. But yeah. So, and I know my ears can actually hear the modem sound as he's like
from his life phone.
Yeah, from his AOL account, he's sending all these things. But yeah, basically, they like Vincent sees this guy and is like, "Oh my god! Like, you think you can get away from up there?" And he jumps and he attacks a helicopter. And the guy's like, "Oh my god! Like, I didn't think you could get me up here or whatever," because he was pretty high up. So
Well, but that was a really cool like couple panels too, because it shows like he sees him and then like it looks like he like runs up to a building and like runs up the side of the building to get like super height to jump on.
Yeah.
And like I like the panel of he like puts his hands through the glass of the helicopter and is like looking right in through the dome and I'm like, hey, what's up? I see you.
Yeah, and then as like he's attacking the pilot, the son of Mama, we're very sad and we're like, oh man, this character was so fleshed out and I'm sad he died. He like, the helicopter's crashing, but you see the word sending on the screen of this camera or the computer that the camera's plugged into. So we know the images are being sent.
Yeah.
And they're already data packets in the ether of the whatever, the universe or whatever. However the stuff gets transmitted through the air. We don't know.
Whatever it was.
It's magic. There's pixies.
But but all of this works out because like the helicopter crashes and then Vincent walks out and he's like, this works to our advantage now. Like basically we're burning the rest of the town. And this is what find any survivors, find them and kill them.
Yeah, and we'll stage all the bodies of the people here that we've already killed, and we'll make it look like it was a fire because we'll just pop the pipeline because there's it's Alaska, so there's the oil pipeline there.
Yeah,
and we'll just flood the city with oil, and then it'll look like that's what happened, and then this helicopter crash.
Yeah, perfect. He's like, we have a way out of this.
Yeah, so then Eben's like, okay. Like, we're not getting out now because they just saw him come up with this great plan that's going to, make it so no one knows any of this. And also, he's like, they're not going to let any of us go. Like, he just heard them say, they're going to round him up and kill everybody. So he does his last ditch effort. He takes his syringe of vampire blood and he's like, don't worry, babe. I can handle this. I know it. Even though, no one else can. I thought this was a bit of a Hail Mary myself.
Yeah, too. I was a little worried. I was like, oh, God, he's going to do it. And then, he's going to be the reason.
That would have been crazy if he, killed everybody and then Stella had to get away and figures out a way to save everybody or, save stuff or whatever, or save herself at least. But, yeah, or kill all the vampires and save. But, so what actually happens in this is he injects the vampire blood. He becomes a vampire. He's strong enough, at least at the beginning, to not kill his wife and friends in that basement. He goes up there and he challenges Vincent himself. And I thought this was not only the most unbelievable part, but I was like, okay, unless we're going by Twilight lore on vampires, this doesn't make any sense to me. But he challenges Vincent and actually goes toe to toe. He's having a little trouble at first, but like I was saying in the Twilight lore for vampires, if you're newly born, you're super strong for some reason. So,
and I think I've heard that in some other vampire stories before. It's definitely not the most common, but it definitely that was the only really out of place thing is that he's able to, because he's so new of a vampire, he's able to be like, oh, I'm not gonna get away from me because I don't want to drink your blood, but I'm not going to, Stella.
Yeah. And
then he's like, I did he goes out the challenge and Vincent's like, oh, new blood want a challenge. He's like, everybody make some room. There's this it's it's gonna be a dance battle almost. Yeah, I just picture this. Yeah, this is ridiculous music starting.
He starts he starts doing the robot and shit. That'd be fucking awesome.
Yeah, so they start fighting, like you said, Vincent at first very much is just wow,
it's the scene from Blade where everybody's in the dance club or whatever. And, yeah, but yeah, they start fighting and at first he's getting his ass kicked. Eben's losing pretty bad. But then Vincent comes in, and he gets some licks from Eben all of a sudden, and then it's basically the other vampires are kind of commenting at first he was all clumsy because he's a new body and a new vampire, but now he's figuring it out. And so I don't know if maybe Eben knew some kind of martial arts or something, or I don't know. They don't explain any of this, but somehow Eben is able to get the best of this Vincent vampire.
The only other thing I was thinking is that I'm sorry to interrupt there. I just that because he's also kind of trash talking the entire time too, because he's like, "You're just a parasite, and vampires aren't really a people's quote unquote.
Right.
Y'all are just trash, or whatever." And also the vampires outside are starting to kind of grumble because he's getting the upper hand.
Yeah.
So maybe it distracts him, Vincent.
Yeah, maybe he's angry or something. That's fighting angry.
Yeah, it's only never fight angry.
Yeah.
So that was my only cause for being okay, there's an offshoot of him somehow getting the best of him, but yeah, because he's angering him and or distracting him because the other vampires are also like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah.
How is he able to even land a punch on him?
How can he do this?
Yeah.
Whatever in your vampire voice you got. But yeah, and then basically he like punches through Vincent's head. Like he's like, open your mouth, motherfucker, and he like sticks his hand right through his head.
And that was a cool panel.
It was
like
cool.
You said, with all the blood really pops and stands out there.
Yeah, and then he's just like, get the fuck out of my town, the rest of you, and then the vampires just leave. None of the other vampires try to fight him. There's 19 other vampires there. They don't try to fight him. So so they all leave. And then Vincent's like, okay, that's pretty much it. Like, we won. We're free. And they, like, him and Stella are like, we just kind of cut to that. That's where he says, like, oh, it's been 29 days, guys. Come on out. The sun's about to come up anyway. And you're like, wait, where did it say that? I guess it has been 29 days, even though no one fucking said it. So they were able to survive for 29 days in the basement without getting caught or anything. And yeah, and then him and Stella, and kind of like a nice end cap to the whole beginning of the book, go watch the sun rise.
Yeah, she's like, "Are you sure we can't like figure out a way to like live with this or whatnot? Like you can stay like down below,
He's
whatever."
Like, no, I know. Like,
he's like, "No, I feel myself turning even more. Like there's no way.
I want to kill you right now, but I cannot."
so they embrace and they watch the sunrise, and that was kind of cool. Yeah, he turns to dust.
Yeah, and then she's crying, and that's like the end of it. And he says like, "I love you," in the wind or whatever. But yeah, that's how it ends. A very like sad, somber thing. But he gave his life for her and her friend and the friends that they had, the rest of the town folk,
the 6 people that survived, maybe.
Yeah. And so and then the other question is, because I was saying, oh, this must be why they get sequels, is now they have proof from the camera that was sending, right? So we assume those got back to Mama and or whoever, got the email from that or whatever.
And plus there's a couple survivors now, so
yeah.
I mean, they're gonna tell all those people if they come out, they're gonna be like, "No, you're crazy. What are you talking about, vampires?"
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully, obviously, there's the video proof will come together with them, and things will sort out.
Yeah. But that's pretty much it. Is there anything else you want to cover that we missed?
No, that was the story in a nutshell.
All right, cool. Well, on that note, what would you give it, John?
So the art, like I said, was jarring to me at first, but then obviously as I went through it, it felt like it fit the tone more. There were still some times where I was like, I can't quite tell what is happening here, and then sometimes I was like, this is like when it's like a specific action sequence or like kind of like the overall like background of what's going on and shadowy figures. This art is gorgeous and it fits perfectly. But then there's some times where it's like either the more human-esque things or the mundane normal stuff, like where it's just like it was kind of a little too much, and I couldn't quite tell it all. Like when they found the cell phones, we were kind of like, I guess that's a pile of cell phones.
Yeah, it was like all black, and there was like a sketchy kind of, like a Picasso version of a cell phone. And I'm like, I guess that's a cell phone, but they had to say in the panel, oh, all the cell phones.
So a little bit of that and a little bit of like, so this is nitpicky, but again, this is for me and how I liked it. A little bit of the like, what with the vampire story for me, like I don't know about that. I'm like,
yeah, it's just a really quick. It could definitely be fleshed out. I actually think, I don't know, I haven't watched the movie except the first time I saw it, so I'm like,
I want to watch it now. I'll be honest.
Yeah, so I could see people making this into a really good movie franchise probably, because there's so much you could flesh out that they didn't flesh out because it's just 3 issues. Yeah. That like you could make something really cool out of this, or you could just make a bland movie too if you wanted. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of potential in this franchise.
Yeah. Well, so going back, so then overall, like I said, it's the story is a cool idea. There were some execution points I was kind of like, I could see that maybe but like I definitely, it was harder for me to suspend my disbelief for some of what I was already like. I feel like it's pretty established lore, or but like I like the way
this
that
is its own series too. So
I know
it's gonna have different lore. But
I know. I like where some of it went. Some of it, like I said, I was a little confused on, but overall I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
it was solid story. The concept was cool. I would like to know a little more. I would like to see how it gets fleshed out a little. So I'm going to go with 6.
6. All right, cool. I love Ben Temple-Smith. So I'm not super hot on Steve Niles. I think, like I said, he's a jobber to me. He gets the job done. He usually tells a pretty solid story and like makes you like, oh, that's pretty good. So like if it was just based on like his writing or whatever, I'd be like, yeah, it was fine. It was 6 or whatever. I love Ben Temple-Smith's art. It's just like that's why we had to look into this because you were like, I'm not so sure about his art. I'm like, let me just see how old he was when this was out, and he was fucking 16. So this is like one of the first things he ever did besides some Spawn comics, maybe some covers for Spawn. I'm not 100% on exactly what he did for Spawn, but I mean, any of those fuck ups where he's like, I'm not quite sure, I'm not as good of a storyteller visually as I am later on. It's probably because he's 16 and this is like the first work he ever did. So I'm gonna give him a pass on a lot of that stuff. But yeah, I can see if you're not used to it or you're not ready for it or you're a new comics reader and you haven't read, because there's some weird fucking art out there, for comics. So I've read stuff where I'm like, whoa, like let me take a step back and try to figure this out, and so I think it's different. I've never seen anybody like him. So I'm gonna give this a 7 just based on the art.
Yeah.
The story, like we said, is passable. It's good. It's like readable. There are some things that are convenient or, like don't take full advantage of like storytelling elements. But
I want to say it again. It's not that, like you said, some of the art when it's on the page.
Yeah, I'm not saying
gorgeous.
you said the art was ugly or something.
No, well, like it's not the Frank Miller like as the Batman series went on.
Whoa.
Art went no, because Frank Miller's original art is fucking gorgeous and some of my favorite. But like, was it the Batman one where like we're kind of like, whoa, like
big change.
What is going on here?
Yeah.
It's not like some of that art is bad.
Yeah.
Hey,
but
this is
how dare you?
No. I like Frank Miller. We've established that.
I'm just joking.
But so like that's what I'm saying is this art is not bad at all. I like this art. It's just sometimes
it's different.
It was
and it's jarring.
Sometimes it was too different for me. Like we didn't say like one of the first panels of this. Like it almost felt like 3D art for me. Like I couldn't look at the page. It's like it was like I get it. It was like the car moving through the snow.
It was a police car, so it had red and blue.
Red and blue.
So
lights.
maybe if you put the little glasses on, it would
yeah.
look like that. I don't know. Maybe it pops out or something.
I don't know. But
was this a 3D comic?
It was jarring. I was like, oh.
If you think that's jarring, you should go read some old school 3D comics because they actually had 3D comics and try to read them without glasses. It is one of the creepiest, like hardest things to read ever.
That sounds horrible.
Yeah, it messes with your eyes so bad. But I could get that. Like I understand because I felt like that too sometimes. I'm like, whoa, especially with the lettering on this. I was like, the lettering is fucking me up. Like this is a 3-issue comic and I could barely read what's going on sometimes because it was like capital here, not capital there, not where it's supposed to be. Yeah. But it was different. But it was only the vampires though. Only the vampires talk like that. So there wasn't a whole lot of that dialogue. But sometimes, like I said, it took me like a good 30 seconds to figure out what a word was. I had to zoom in on it because I was like reading it digitally, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what does this say? So yeah, like some of that was hard to tell, but. Like I give a lot of credit to people doing different things. And this was definitely a different thing, especially when it came out in 2001. Like, this is like a brand new idea.
Yeah, I was like,
brand new concept. No one's ever seen art like this. You know,
does this fall into your like groundbreaking kind of thing?
This does, yeah. This does. I think if the story was a little bit tighter and better, maybe more like maybe in the hands of someone a little bit not. Like I said, he's a jobber to me. He doesn't ever like write better than he needs to or whatever, like better than serviceable. So, and I'm sorry, Steve Niles, if you hear this. I mean, I'm sure you're a great guy. Maybe there's some stuff I haven't read, but every time I read stuff from him, I'm just like, yeah, that's fine. But it was never like, oh man, that story was crazy or whatever. So I think if Ben Temple-Smith did the art and then you had like Warren Ellis write the story, or you had like Garth Ennis or someone really. Mark Miller or whatever, you had someone that was like a top tier writer writing this same idea, you would have like one of the best books of all time, especially if this was like in 2001, same everything. But because the story is just like, yeah, it's good. It's like, it's a 7. It would be an 8, I think, if it was, or a 9 even, if it was if it was by a different writer. But yeah. So I'm gonna give us a 7. You're gonna give it a 6. I think next week we're wrapping up our Halloween episodes.
Yeah, this one we're gonna have special on Halloween episode.
Yeah, on Halloween we're gonna release it on Saturday just for y'all, and it's gonna be Batman: The Long Halloween. So we're reading this long ass book for you guys because normally we try to limit it to a 6-issue series, but this is a 12-issue maxi series. So we're gonna try to limit the size of the episode too. We're trying to maybe we'll have to skim over some things or whatever. But yeah, we don't want to give you guys like a 2-hour episode that you guys don't want to hear. But
yeah,
we're gonna try to fit all that into our little package of at least usually around an hour or something. So. On that note, if you guys have any comments, questions, or suggestions, you can email us at planestrains.and-comicbooks, all one word, at gmail.com.
And don't forget to check out our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube channel for exclusive content. We're going to have some fun stuff coming up after Halloween here. I think we're going to have some fun stuff we're going to get into in November, and then we're going to probably do a little...
we'll do another Christmas episode.
Yeah, Christmassy episode. That was fun last year. It was some really good ones and some really bad ones. So
yeah, let's just do one, though, like we did last year.
Yeah.
Not 13, John. Not the 13 days of Halloween.
13 days of Halloween. This is super special. So
I blame John for this. But it's been hard, but I hope you guys are liking the content we're putting out. But it has been just a little hard to film or to record 13 episodes, 13 extra episodes. But it's been fun. We get to read a couple things that we wouldn't have checked out otherwise, and hopefully you guys are enjoying it. Yeah, we will see you guys next time
on the next one.
Bye. Well, folks, hope you enjoyed that episode.
If you did and you'd like to follow us on social media, our Facebook is Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, and our Instagram is @Planes, Trains, and Comic Books, all one word.
And be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more recommendations to add to your weekly pull list.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.